What is difference in difference modeling or estimation? Well, it allows us to look at the impact of a policy on just about anything. It can be at a macro level. For example, the US government recently said that they will implement, or they may implement, import taxes on aluminium and steel coming to the country now. So here's a new training program for Sally. So we're going to look at two time periods. One is the before treatment and one is the after treatment. And this measures the average distances that they both jump. So 5 weeks before the midterm break, 5 weeks after the midterm break. And during that midterm break, they're going to have 1 week of, Sally's going to have 1 week of training with an Olympic athlete, and the other one, Denise, is not. When we put the two graphs together, here we can see, again, the pre-trends analysis satisfied. And we can see here something called the counterfactual. Now, this is something that we cannot observe. This is Sally's improvement in her jumps. That's the extra 2 meters here. And that's the 2 meters extra. This is now the effect of the training program that Sally has enjoyed during the half. What does matter, however, is this post policy, this 10.18. And this says that London city price level increased due to the policy. So this is the causal effect of that policy. So prices rose by 10.18 on average, more than they would have done without the policy. So what I'm going to do is actually just compare these growth rates to what actually happened in the real world. So this is our pretend world. This is where we're going back as Swift we were in 2010. We've done our rental, our new forecast, and we go back and compare it to what actually happened in the real world. And let's just see how that turns out. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. So here we go. That's the 2010 to 14. Just do a quick graph. And we can see, let's have a look. How's it turned out? Oh, wow. It's actually come out very similar. Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you how we use a very specific methodology to help us make forecasts in the commercial real estate world when, for example, governments make policy decisions. I'll explain the methodology, then go through a real-world example. Now, there will be a bit of econometrics involved, and I don't want to lose you by geeking you out. So please do watch until the end. So let's dive straight in. How am I going to do this? Well, I'm going to use a technique called difference in difference modeling, which will be complemented by econometric forecasting. What is difference in difference modeling or estimation? Well, it allows us to look at the impact of a policy on just about anything. It can be at a macro level. For example, the US government recently said that they will implement, or they may implement, import taxes on aluminium and steel coming to the country. Now, this could have an effect on production prices. It could have an effect on competition. It could have an effect on yields or people's investments, anything like that. Or it could be at a more granular level. For example, a new bus route coming into town. Now, this could have an economic effect. It could be a very good thing for that small town, the economy. And we can measure this through our difference in difference modeling. And that allows us to make forecasts, or helps us make forecasts. We will use difference in difference techniques, and these difference in different techniques are called interventions at a specific moment in time. Well, the policy itself is called an intervention at a specific moment in time. I'm going to use two high school long jumpers, 16-year-olds. One is called Sally and the other one is called Denise. They all have aspirations of going to the Olympics, etc. But one of them is going to have an Olympic trainer coming in to train her during the midterm semester. So Sally is going to have that Olympic athlete coming to train her, whereas Denise is not. And we'll show how this actually works. So here's a new training program for Sally. So we're going to look at two time periods. One is the before treatment and one is the after treatment. And this measures the average distances that they both jump. So 5 weeks before the midterm break, 5 weeks after the midterm break. And during that midterm break, they're going to have 1 week of, Sally's going to have 1 week of training with an Olympic athlete, and the other one, Denise, is not. Denise is called the control group or the control person. Sally is called the treated person. This is the person who's going to have the intervention. So why do we need the control group? Well, difference in difference actually allows us to measure the difference between the two people, the two groups. So we're going to measure the difference between Denise and Sally, Denise's jumps before and after, and the difference between Sally's jumps before and after the treatment. And the difference between those two is the difference. So it's the difference of the difference. And in this particular example here, we can see both of them have improved their distances by 1 meter after Sally's treatment. However, the difference is 0. So can we categorically say that the policy or the treatment has had an impact on Sally? Well, we can say absolutely not, because the difference is 0. So we can say no impact. There's been no impact from the training program. So, but why have they both increased their distances by a meter? Well, this could be due to what we call time variant factors. It could be due to Denise maybe having a rest during the midterm break, or Sally having a new sort of diet, maybe more fiber in her diet, or anything like that. These are the sort of time variant factors that do exist and allow people, or Sally and Denise, to jump a little bit further. So, but in this instance, there's been no impact from Sally's training program. However, in this instance here, if we look at another example, from the same two people, Sally has jumped 4 meters before the treatment, but after the treatment, her meter jumping has gone up to 7. Now, if she was jumping 7 meters, she would definitely be an Olympic athlete. Whereas Denise has jumped 4 meters before, and 3 meters before, and 4 meters after. Now, Sally's jumping the 3 meters is the treatment or the policy effect and the other changes we talked about earlier, so the new fiber diet or whatever it might be. Whereas Denise's she's jumped an extra meter, and that again could be due to her rest during that time period. The extra 2 meters is the actual impact of the training itself. So this is the policy or the treatment plus the other changes, the fibrous diet, etc., minus the control group's other changes, for example, the rest, which equals the actual impact. So this is the effect of the treatment, which is sometimes referred to as the average treatment effect on the treated, or ATET. The task here is to isolate all the noise. So the noise is the fibrous diet or whatever, or the rest, or whatever it might be. When we take we take that noise out of the equation, we are then left with the actual policy itself. So the effect of the training program that Sally has been through. Now, before we do any difference in difference testing, we need to do something called the pre-trends analysis and the parallel trends assumption. Now, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to do that now because we just don't have that much time and you don't really want to see this. But what this actually means is that we have a graph before the actual treatment. Now, this is a treatment here. This is a Sally's training program. The two athletes should have reasonably similar jumps, basically performances in this instance. So you can see the line going up. They're very similar, and that will satisfy our pre-trends analysis. And we'll look at that numerically when we come on to doing it. When I come on to show you an example. The parallel trends assumption says that in the absence of this vertical line here, the treatment, in the absence of the vertical line, both jumpers are going to have jumps that are constant. So basically, they're going to be very much the same over time. When we put the two graphs together, here we can see, again, the pre-trends analysis satisfied. And we can see here something called the counterfactual. Now, this is something that we cannot observe. This is Sally's improvement in her jumps. That's the extra 2 meters here. And that's the 2 meters extra. This is now the effect of the training program that Sally has enjoyed during the half-term break, the midterm break. Now, I did say I didn't want to geek you out too much, but here we go. It's really important to understand this. This is a very simple econometric equation, and I'll just very quickly go through what this all means. Here we can see YIT. This is what we call the dependent variable, and this here is what we're trying to observe. So we're trying to observe what has Sally actually jumped, what's her distance. And this distance is dependent on these beta values, so beta 0, beta 0, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, and so on. Beta 0 is the constant term. So in the absence of any of these other treatments or time, etc., there will be some change in the distance jumped by Sally. Beta 1 is the treatment or the policy. So this is Sally's training program. And when we come to do the analysis, we'll either put a 0 or 1 that are called dummy variables. We'll have a look at that later. We've got a time variable here, and we need to put in values again. 0 or 1, they're called dummy variables. And the actual impact, ATET, which I talked about earlier, is the treatment multiplied by the time. And this is the actual impact of Sally's training program. EIT here is the error term. The lower the error term, the better our model is. And we're happy that the results here, the numerical values here that we observe, are the ones that we can rely on. And here we are. This is our equation again. This is the result of the equation. This is mid-semester break again. Beta naught. This is the value of the control group before the treatment of the policy. beta 0 plus beta 1. This is the value of the treatment group before the policy is implemented, or the training program. Beta 0 and beta 2 is the value of the control group after the treatment. And all of these together is what we are trying to find out here. So the summation of all is what we're trying to find out. And beta 0, beta 1, beta 2 is the counterfactual. And here the difference is the 2 meters we saw earlier is the impact of that particular training program. Here we come to the exciting bit. This is our real world example. And I'm going to use an example from 2010. And if you cast your mind back to the recession of 2008, the financial crisis, the UK government said that they were going to have a suspension of business rates. This is what we call the commercial property tax, where proprietors of office spaces, retail, hospitality, industrial warehouses didn't have to pay this tax. And the aim of this was to reduce the financial pressure on everyone. It was a pretty miserable time, and we had recession after recession, and it was quite miserable. So I'm going to use the City of London prime office rental prices to be able to illustrate this properly. So here we are with our real world example. So I'm going to take the City of London and Zurich rent prices between 2001 and 2016. I'm going to take Zurich as the control group because not only is it the city I was born in, but it also is a really good city to satisfy our pre-trends analysis. And I'll just show you here why. So I'm just going to plot a very quick graph. Here we are. This doesn't really show you much. You'll notice that Zurich is denoted in Swiss francs, whereas London is denoted in sterling. Now, there's a slight disparity between the two because the numbers are slightly bigger in Zurich than in London. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to normalize the Zurich series. And to be able to do this, I'll just divide the Zurich series by 10. It's not going to make any difference to the growth rates. It's still exactly the same. So just so it looks something like London. Now, here we are. That's much better. So if we see here now, we can see the pre-trends analysis, very similar leading up to the implementation of the policy in 2010. I think it's probably just better also to put in a policy line. So just going to do that very quickly. Let's just add a policy line here. We'll call it policy. Just going to change the chart type slightly so this can be seen properly. Just bear with me a second. Let's go back and select data. So we're just going to add this now. Okay, so this is a policy line. It should show. Here we are. That's very good. Okay, so this is our policy line here. So this is when the implementation of the policy, so the business rates suspension. And we can see thereafter, London has a slight uptick. And we'll measure this properly, and Zurich is the converse. In order to measure this properly, we're going to go into a system called Stata. It's an econometric software package I've been using for absolute years. And we're going to just check to see what it does. So here we are. What we're going to do is take the data from Stata. I've got it here. So we've got the year. We've got the city. I've put 2 for London, City of London, 3 for Zurich. If London has a policy, these are dummy variables. So this is the policy here. If London has had the policy for all these years, I'll put 1 and 0 for Zurich, 0 denoting that Zurich hasn't had the policy implementation. 0 is going to denote everything between 2001 and 2009, and the policy time is going to be denoted by dummy variable 1, and this is the outcome. So just going to take this quickly and put it in. This is Stata. Put it into Stata. There we go. There's our variables. And now we are going to measure this. So the first thing to do is set the time. City and year. There you go, that's done. And now we're going to regress the outcome against the policy. Post outcome. Here we go. And this is our results. Now, what does this mean? So we look at the top here. We've got probability here 0. So it basically tells us it's a good fit. 0.00, it says 0%. Anything less than 5%, so 0.05, is statistically what we call statistically significant, and we can use this as a reliable source of information. If we look at what we call here the p-values here, just showing the p-values, this is it shows exactly the same thing, but here's where it's more interesting. Here's are the coefficients. And here, what we have here is the policy here. So this basically minus 33.1. It says that London was 33.61 units lower than Zurich before the policy. Minus 1.07 states that the post-policy Zurich prices decreased slightly, but we can see here that the p-value here is above 5%, so it's 0.70%. So it's not really that reliable. We're not really that interested in this bit of information here, so it doesn't really matter too much. What does matter, however, is this post-policy, this 10.18, and this says that London city price level increased due to the policy. So this is the causal effect of that policy. So prices rose by 10.18 on average, more than they would have done without the policy. And this is the difference in difference, the difference between the control group and the difference between, and that of City of London, the treated group, the one that had the policy implemented. So I'm now going to complement our difference in difference analysis with econometric forecasting. And what I'm trying to do here is to forecast the office rents from 2010 onwards. So we've just had, I'm going to pretend that we are now back in 2010. So we don't have any data. We don't know what the forecast is for prime office rents for the City of London between 2010 and 2014. We're going to forecast that. So we're going to pretend that we have to go back and get the data from 2010 to be able to do that. And here we go. So let me just go in very quickly and grab the data. Here we go. We want all data sources, and we need to go. So we're in 2010. Pretend we're in 2010, and we'll go to March, April. I think that's good. Yeah. Okay. So eventually, when it comes up, so what we have here. So we have our data providers. So we have all this data here, and GDP data, office-based employment data, retail spending data, that type of thing. What we actually get from them is a forecast going from we've got historic going from start to 2009 is our historic, and the forecasts are from 2010 to 24. So they provide us forecasts. So we are able to use this forecast to ascertain what we don't know, which in our example is of our office rents. So let's just go quickly and grab this data here. This is the office-based employment, work-based employment. Put that there. And we need also, let's go to GDP, real GDP. Good. We're looking for the City of London, 2001. So just grab that as well, 2014. And put that in here. There we go. Okay, here we have it. And I'm not going to import this into a system called eViews. Now, I use Stata and eViews. I use two different things purely because I do them. I'm more comfortable using one for particular. So difference to difference testing, I use Stata, and forecasting, I generally use eViews. I'm going to put this in here. Oops. Oop, there we go. Let's just do this properly. Here we go. Right. Okay. I'm not going to put this into eViews. So if we take the data, and this is our eViews package here, so we're just going to create a brand new work file. 2001, the data goes from to 2014. Copy that in, hit next, next again. Here's our data. And now we can do a model. We can actually run a model, sorry. Okay, so we're interested in finding the change in the log of office rent. Basically, the log values statisticians use to help simplify complex relationships, make it easier to analyze economic trends, etc. And this is dependent on the constant term and dependent on the log of office rent previous year, also dependent on the change in the log of office employment and change in the log of GDP. And this gives us our model. So we're happy with it. So I'm going to take this now and copy it, put it somewhere next to here. I'll just put it here somewhere. Okay. So I hope you can all see this. Right. So what I'm going to do now is put in this model. So each one of these coefficients corresponds to a value that we're trying to help us ascertain our office rent. So we have our output here. I'm just going to put this model into Excel and just show you quickly how I do this. So I'm just going to probably keep quiet whilst I do this because it's very difficult to put this in whilst talking at the same time. Log of itself plus, so these are just the coefficients I'm putting in, and multiply by these corresponding values. Multiply by log of itself. I don't usually talk while I'm doing this, but in this instance, I guess I have to. Multiply by, so that's the coefficient for office employment, multiplied by the log of office employment that same year divided by previous year, plus the GDP variable multiplied by the log of GDP 2010 divided by 2009. And that is our new growth rate. So our new rental price, I should say. And so here we have it. I'm going to just copy that across 2010 to 2014, and also going to copy the growth rates across. So we can see that rental growth prices from 2009 to 2010 after the policy has increased 23.1%. It's quite a jump, actually. So what I'm going to do is actually just compare these growth rates to what actually happened in the real world. So this is our pretend world. This is where we're going back as we were in 2010. We've done our rental, our new forecast, and we go back and compare it to what actually happened in the real world. And let's just see how that turns out. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. So here we go. That's the 2010 to 14. Just do a quick graph. And we can see, let's have a look. How's it turned out? Oh, wow. It's actually come out very similar. That didn't really expect that. Well, that's actually, that's our new forecast. So that was 23. Yeah. So that's come out quite nicely. So, well, there we have it. This is our difference in difference testing with complemented by econometric forecasting. We can see our pretend world has come out quite nicely in line with the real world. So there you have it. Well, I hope you found that useful. That is just a quick demonstration of how we use a specific technique to help us forecast the impact of geopolitical, socioeconomic shifts. Now, we're rebuilding our platform, and you can join it for free or on a subscription. It's literally the price of a gym membership. We don't believe in charging exorbitant prices. So if you found it useful, I've left the link in the description below. It's just an expression of interest form. So put in your name, email address, and I'll keep you informed about the platform and further details. And all this is in partnership with our brilliant partner, Stata. So see you again soon. Bye-bye.